The world is in an all-out race for AI supremacy, and I don't think that it's actually going the way that many people think it is. The US and also American companies themselves have been committing immense amounts of capital for AI data center build-outs and to bring semiconductor manufacturing to the United States. But the US president just made a move that makes it clear that he knows that the US is still missing one critical piece to be able to come out on top of the AI race.
For years, American businesses have risked running out of critical minerals during market disruptions. Today, we're launching what will be known as Project Vault to ensure that American businesses and workers are never harmed by any shortage. Just as we have long had a strategic petroleum reserve and a stockpile of critical minerals for national defense, we're now creating this reserve for American industry.
Though it may seem that the US's major competitor in the AI race, China, might not be throwing as much money at AI, it might be because they've been quietly investing their resources a little bit differently. It might have real wealth that's necessary for them to be able to actually come out on top. The US government just announced Project Vault, which is a $12 billion strategic mineral stockpile. And this is highlighting the growing strategic importance of metals, including nickel, copper, tungsten, silver, and gold. But what's going on here really, and what does this mean for you and your money? On the surface, the US looks dominant in the AI race. The US leads in private investment with over $100 billion, which is dwarfing any of the efforts that China has made from an investment perspective in the private sector. The US has all of the frontier models from OpenAI to Anthropic to Google and their model, and then even xAI. The US also has some top tier compute capabilities with tens of millions of the top GPU chips. And all of the talent when it comes to AI research and development is also in the US, or typically looking for a way to get there. But China has understood something that the West has ignored for decades. They understood that the next economic battleground wasn't going to be one purely with capital markets and talent alone. But instead, in the late 1980s and 1990s, China made a really important decision. The Chinese leader at the time said the Middle East has oil, China has rare earths. Now, at the time, that sounded kind of absurd. Like, what are you talking about? Oil is kind of the new oil at that time. It was very, very important for industrial capacity and being able to grow and move and become economically powerful. But what ended up happening is China might have understood that technology was going to be the new frontier, and that technology was going to need these rare earth minerals that they already had. Electronics, magnets, optics, batteries, and what's now AI hardware was something that was going to be dependent upon rare earths. And whoever controlled not only the supply of these rare earths, but the processing of these rare earths would control the choke point for the next industry. So China classified rare earths as a strategic resource and backed the entire industry with state subsidies and accepted some of the environmental damage that the West wasn't willing to tolerate. And most importantly, they built out processing capacity and not just mines.
We're going to have so much rare earth. It's actually not that rare. Getting it processed is rare, but there's a lot of rare earth. There's a lot of earth around, I can tell you.
And the next part of the strategy was to flood the market with cheap rare earths. And so that drove the prices of rare earths down and basically forced some of the Western competitors to actually shut down because they couldn't compete with the unit economics of China doing this at such a massive scale. And now at that point, China can absorb the market share of any of these competitors, and then the prices would later stabilize once they already had a huge share of the market of processing these rare minerals. And now China becomes the major gatekeeper. So right now, China controls roughly 70% of global rare earth mining, But then on top of that, 90% of rare earth processing and refining. It's at the point where even when the US is mining rare earths in the US, much of that refining is still going to happen in China. They're going to send those rare earths to China for it to get processed, and then it comes back to the US for use. Or, right, we also know that a lot of the actual manufacturing of American goods is done in China as well. So you send the metal to China and then they build what you need and then sell that back to you. So China doesn't just control the supply of rare earths. They've put themselves in the position to be the entire choke point for the entire supply chain of a lot of global manufacturing, especially in the realm of technology. And all of these rare earths that China is responsible for processing are critical for GPUs, data centers, electric motors, robotics, autonomous vehicles, even military systems, and also energy infrastructure. In other words, in every single aspect of what's going to be necessary to be competitive in this race for AI supremacy includes the need of rare earths, and China has them on lock. Now, there's also another piece of this AI race that China has locked down. While the West has argued on which energy sources are safe and clean, China said, we'll just build all of them. And so China simultaneously is invested in coal, hydropower, nuclear, solar, wind, and more. And now they're generating 2 times as much energy as the United States and about 5 times as much as India. And if we're paying any attention, we all know that the biggest limiter to what a country is going to be able to do with artificial intelligence is going to come down to their ability to generate energy. And as it stands right now in the United States, this is already an emergency that the president has been trying to address because some of these technology companies are overloading grids and also driving up the costs of energy for the average citizens. And that's not going to be sustainable.
Doug Burgum, where's Doug? Will you please drill a little bit faster? Well, now we're putting those utilities to shame because I'm allowing all of those AI plants that are being built to build their own electric generating force, and they're building them like nobody's ever seen.
Now, China has been able to get out ahead in this energy generation and rare earths equation by being able to think in 30 to 50 year timelines, which is one of the biggest things about their entire system that makes it work, right? If you have a leader that's not rotating out every 4 to 8 years, then you can have someone who spends an entire generation as the leader and pushing the direction of the country. Another thing about the Chinese economic and political system that has allowed them to get ahead of this is that they prioritize industrial capacity over short-term profits. The US model for the economy is very ROI driven and shareholder optimized. The thing is that to build infrastructure, a lot of the times companies are having to fight with local politicians to make that stuff happen. And then for China, you know, they have state-directed capital. Their governments are investing in things, and you've got 20 to 40 year planning horizons and a willingness for the government to actually absorb the losses of some of these projects as they come. Infrastructure in China is seen as national power and not as a profit center. So this is why China was able to overbuild their energy capacity to get out ahead of what's happening now. And they also have subsidized technology companies to allow them to survive up until this point, to where now they might actually be able to be profitable and have some staying power. Hello, how are you? I'm fantastic. Please.
Sorry.
No problem. So now the U.S. has just announced Project Vault, which is this $12 billion strategic mineral stockpile, basically to protect against any spikes in rare earth costs due to the fact that they have counterparties that might not want to work with them for supplies like China, right? So the U.S. right now is trying to reshore its manufacturing, and in that it's also using tariffs both as a political tool and as an economic tool to accomplish this reshoring. And the thing is that an increase in a tariff on another country, in the case of rare earth minerals, means that, the U.S. would have to pay more to import these rare earths. And so if it gets to the point where they need to ratchet up the tariffs even further because someone wants to play ball or whatever else is going on, then that might hurt industry. And I think this is a part of what's happening here is the U.S. is realizing, well, if we're going to use tariffs as a tool, we have to also be prepared for the fact that, that's going to impact our industries as well. So we need to get out ahead of having shortages of certain raw materials that may be necessary to building the data centers as well as all of the manufacturing that we want to bring back to the United States. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Please don't take financial advice from a random guy walking around the park talking to a stick. But the United States seems to be moving towards the kind of economic model that China has utilized, right? Where the U.S. is starting to invest in companies. And that's something that we haven't really seen so blatantly in the past. We just heard a few weeks ago that the Trump administration has taken a 10% stake in the company USA Rare Earth as a part of a $1.6 billion debt and equity investment package that's aimed at helping the company develop a domestic mine and magnet facility. Last year, we also had the U.S. announce that it's going to be investing into a few other companies as well, including taking equity stakes in MP Materials, Lithium Americas, and Trilogy Metals. So the way that I see it, rare earth and nuclear energy companies are likely to continue to be the targets that the U.S. is acquiring or taking stakes in order to get back in control of what needs to happen to win this AI race. But I don't know, maybe I've completely lost the plot here. What did I miss? What did I get wrong? And how could I be looking at this differently? Let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't already, you gotta subscribe to my live show that I do with Ben Levitt. It's called Memes and Markets. We go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern, and it is a fantastic time. You can find the link to Memes and Markets in the description down below. If you want access to deeper insights on what I'm doing with this kind of information, what companies I think are gonna stand to benefit the most from this AI race, then definitely consider subscribing to my Patreon, where I do a weekly macroeconomic newsletter, or my channel memberships that I just launched. The Macro Analyst tier members are getting access to videos where I go in depth about these things and also answer questions that you may have. You can find that at the link in the description down below. I'm Keith D, here to talk everything money and markets. And until next time, peace.